hear from Summer and get her advice on how to design a student-centered classroom.
With my classroom setup, I started with I want an environment that is, I want to be here. When I came into my classroom, like I want this to be a space that I want to live in. I want to be here and I want it to feel welcoming for me. And so I extended that thought into, okay, well, I'm here. I'm not the only person here. This is not just a office. This is a classroom. This is a shared space. So how can I make this space equitable for every student? How can I make them want to be here? One activity I did at a college they had us close our eyes and imagine a space that we love. Where is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What are the lights? Who's there? What's around? And, a lot of people did stores. Like that was kind of where our mind went, being 17, 18, before you go off to college. It was like, oh, I love Target. I love Sephora. And it's like, okay, well, what do those spaces look like? Okay, well, they've got white lights and it's very clean and, everything is set up nice. And that was kind of, there was someone who did a nail salon. It was like there's, water noises and it's very calm and inviting. And from that moment, I said, that's what a classroom needs to embody. It needs to embody your favorite place, where you want to be, where you feel comfortable. So when you think of those things, what does that look like? Is it, when we think of teenagers, we think of string lights in their class, in their bedrooms. We think of LED lights now are a huge thing in their bedrooms, and I'll be investing in some of those for next year. But just thinking of the spaces that that to them might seem very homey is exactly what their classroom should do. They need to feel in here, or what do they need to see to make it make sense? So that's where we have, the classroom collage over there. And sorry, when I worked at a preschool, I worked in the 2-year-old room. It was while I was in college, and they had the 2-year-olds. They would, get very upset when they left, when parents left, because they just have different anxieties. And we had a wall of their family. So the families, when they first started, were told to bring in a family photo. And it was low enough where the kids could go over and they could grab their family picture. And so when mom would walk out the door and they were sad, they would go grab it and they would hug it, and it would make them feel very good and calm. And I said, I want that in my room. I asked my students, I said, any pictures that you want me to print of you or your family, I'll print them for you. So I had pictures of students' dogs, cats, their mom, their dad, whatever they wanted. And, of course, they're adolescents, so a lot of them are selfies and group photos. And if that is what makes them feel whole in this moment, and maybe they don't want mom and dad up on the wall, and that's fine, that's their choice. But this makes them feel good. You can almost always in my class see a student look over there. Or they'll get excited when I say, okay, I'm going to pick up another photo order, or they'll ask after a field trip, hey, when are you going to print these out? In high school, I felt like we had a lot of posters like those, in teachers' classrooms where they're just generic, it's kind of a vocabulary wall almost. But like, I love this wall, which was a new setup for me this year. It's like past students' work. So eventually they'll end up making one of these posters about like the amendment process. Change the tables every every 3 weeks. Like I felt like I constantly changed them. And then I had read that there was maybe some anxiety of students, when they come in and see a new setup and it's just, oh my God, where do I sit? Oh my God, now I gotta freak out because I wasn't planning on sitting next to this person. And it was just like, I would literally hear students come in like, oh, you changed your room again? And some of them would be exciting, and then some of them would be like, again. And that kind of made me be like, maybe this isn't working. Maybe I'm just too excited to be a teacher and have this space of my own. And I wasn't really thinking of how it could trigger, their anxiety of being by a new person, or not knowing where they belong in the classroom, where their seat was, things like that. So I've kind of tried to stay a little bit more structured. Maybe every quarter I'll change the seats depending on how I like it, but I always ask them. And usually my homeroom is a mix of all of the academic class, but I'll have them put together the room. And so to be conscientious of how your room could trigger students, these bins, it could go two ways. one, the kids know I'm the fun teacher. I'm the one always planning dances, and they know that there's always something in here that is to uplift them or to do something. So I have those in here. I'm the volleyball coach, so there's that. But also, like that might excite some students, but these bins also might be like a trigger to, okay, we're moving. This is all we have. Maybe they're moving house to house. And I'm so ready to be done with collecting these materials for this banquet that I'm throwing that I'm like, I'm ready to get this stuff out because even though I haven't had those type of traumatic experiences, I'm thinking about my students and how that could trigger them. Or that's why like the end of the class is always like that cleaning thing. I want students to know that like there's a student in that class that their house doesn't have floors, they don't have running water. You don't know that. I know that. And I know that they deserve to have a clean space to come into from 7:30 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. They know that there is no food, bugs, everything is just nice and clean and kept. And I feel like that is what they need. And they need to have a space that is just that smell. And also, I add in that cleaning factor of it as we all need to be safe. I want you here every day. It's flu season, there's COVID going around. I want you to know that we're in this space together, and I want it to be as safe as it can be. So what we do here is, if a student wants to rent a game, they can rent it over, overnight, over the weekend. They just have to bring it back, and it's kind of risky. It sounds like, but I just tell them like, hey, I ordered this stuff. I took the time, and I want you to bring it back with all the pieces, and I have had no issue. Monopoly, all the cards are in English. There are families who cannot read English, so how do they know what's happening? So I looked up Hispanic games or games for maybe families who, might just have whatever different issues. But we got like me and Colin here. We've got speed cups, which is just pictures. So if there's some different issues in the family, maybe their parents reading extremely low or whatever, like whatever the case might be. It could be a language barrier, it could be whatever type of barrier might be there. And then if we look down here, we have our health setup, and this is kind of like it's dwindling down. I need some new hair ties, but we've got pads here, we've got bobby pins, we've got toothbrushes that they're able to take with toothpaste on them. I've gone through 3 bottles of spray. You never have to ask for anything. Just walk over, get what you need. And there'll be times where our do now will simply be, what would you change in this class? And I ask them that frequently. It's not something I just ask once in the beginning of the year, once at the end of the year. Constantly checking in with them. What if you could see anything, what would you want to see? If there's something you want to do, let me know.
Thank you, Summer, for taking the time to share about your experiences.